Hey, it's Tanya Taylor of Grow Your Wealth TV, and in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about 10 things that you should be doing in your 50s when it comes to retirement. This is a continuation of my retirement series, so if you check this video out, it talks about the difference between Roth IRA and traditional IRA and what might make the most sense for you. Now, if you find yourself in your 50s and you are panicked because you are not prepared for retirement, you really are in a position where you need to be planning right now. If you're new to my channel, please feel free to like and subscribe. I have lots of great contents which covers savings, getting out of debt, investing, and just overall planning for your retirement so that you can have a worry-free retirement. If you find yourself in your 50s and you have not yet started planning for retirement, or you have done a little planning, but you feel like you are not prepared, what do you do with this age? The first thing that I would say to you is that you need to find someone that you can work with to help you to map out your goals and what your number is that you are going to be needing in retirement. Given that you have such limited time, it might be in your best interest to work with someone to get you on that path. So once you've found someone and you've mapped out your numbers, so you have an idea of when you want to retire and how much you want to retire, now you have to think about how do you get there. And the second thing that I would say is that if you have debt, you want to work on reducing that debt, because if you're paying a high interest, it's just going to end up costing you more to try to invest at the same time while you're paying down that debt. So either you're going to look to consolidate the debt, or you're going to just start pouring money into paying off that debt. Again, however, because you don't have a lot of time, you'll have to find the right balance of how you want to pay that debt down versus how much you want to start investing. And so the third thing that I would recommend is that if you are not already doing so, you want to max out your 401k plan or whatever retirement plan you have with your employer to make sure that you're getting all of that tax-free money put away. So once you're over 50, the IRS allows a catch-up amount. So not only do you want to max it out, but you also want to take advantage of the catch-up. Someone might say, well, I don't have all of that money because that was part of why I was not planning for retirement. So I would say to you, do the best that you can. But if you've put a strategy in place where you're at least trying to pay your debt off and also having a budget, that's going to really help you to realize how much you can continue to put in your account. The fourth thing that I want to talk about, and this is something that hopefully you already have in place, but if you don't, you want to make sure that you have an emergency fund, because in your 50s, a lot of things could happen, whether it's medical or other things, and you just want to make sure that you have some money put away so that if an emergency should arise, you don't have to be tapping into your resources that's been allocated for your retirement, or worse, to get into additional debt. So you're going to be doing a lot of things in your 50s if you don't already have anything in place, because you definitely want to make sure that you have some sort of emergency fund to be available in case you have some unexpected event that arises. The next thing that you want to think about is, let's say you did have some money put away and you have it in some portfolio. You want to still be invested in the portfolio, but you want to look at the allocation of your asset and make sure that you're comfortable with it. Because at this age, the last thing that you want to do is to take risk. So whatever you do, do not go out there and start taking on additional risk. But in addition to that, you want to look to see what you have your assets in and see if you need to do some sort of rebalancing to make sure that you are comfortable with all the different components of your retirement portfolio, so that if something should happen in the market, you are not left in an adverse situation over the long term. That was number 5. So we've covered the top 5 considerations in your 50s as you plan for retirement. If any of that is resonating with you, please comment below and let me know. If there's anything that you think should have been in the top 5 that's not there, then also comment below. The 6th thing that I want to talk about is asset location. A lot of times, this is something that people miss, but as you are planning towards retirement, you want to understand how to structure your accounts so that you're getting the best benefit from it. So there are many different type of assets that you can have in your portfolio, right? But there are some that are best put in a portfolio that is tax free at the time you retire versus putting others in an account that's taxable when you retire. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you have a Roth IRA. When you get to retirement, you're not going to be taxed on that. So that's where you would want to put the assets that's going to have the larger gains. However, if you know that you have a traditional IRA, there are certain assets that you would want to put in that account because that account is going to be taxed when you start withdrawing the money. So if you're investing in, let's say, like municipal bonds, then you would want to put them in that IRA versus if you're investing in some stocks and some ETFs, then you would want to put that in the Roth IRA because you will not be taxed on that when you get to retirement. So, strategy to consider. A lot of people overlook it, and it's really important because it's going to save you money in the long run. Number seven is to get insurance. If you're in your 50s and you don't have insurance, you need to run out and get insurance, especially if you have dependents. If you don't have dependents, you might just want to get enough insurance to take care of your affairs, but you would really need to sit with your advisor and understand which type of insurance makes the most sense. I will say that other types of insurance, like whole life, is much more expensive once you get in your 50s. So you would also need to balance that with your budget. Then the other types of insurance that are really necessary and important at this age is long-term disability. So you already have not really fully prepared for retirement. And if you have a job and you were to become ill, your employer may provide you a certain amount of disability, but it may not cover your income. So you really want to look into that to see if you need to fill that gap. Also, long-term care. Medical expenses are very expensive. I don't need to tell you that. I think everybody knows that. So you can qualify for Medicaid, but generally, in order to qualify for Medicaid, you have to have exhausted every resource that you have. So you basically have to be poor and broke to qualify for Medicaid. So you also want to have some sort of supplemental insurance, and long-term care could fill that gap in case you're going to need some sort of medical care. And studies have shown that, a majority of Americans are going to need some kind of extended care when they get older. Number 8 is to consider opening a health savings account. You have to meet the eligibility criteria in order to open that account. So you have to have a high deductible healthcare plan. But if you do, every year that's another $3,500 that you can tuck away tax free for medical expenses in the future. And when you withdraw that money, as long as you use it to pay for medical expenses, it's also tax free. All right, so now we are up to number 9. The fact is not lost on me that if you were not prepared for retirement and you're in your 50s, chances are that you're not going to have all the available funds based on your current income to do all these things that I have just mentioned. However, there are some things that you can also think about doing in your 50s that can help you to bring in additional income. So if you have a house, you may consider doing Airbnb or renting a room to a college student to give you that additional income. Then another thing that you can consider is whether or not you have certain skills that you can use right now to generate additional income and use that money, just earmark it for your retirement. If you have your own business, you are able to contribute up to 25% of that business income up to a maximum of $63,500 because you're over 50 into that retirement account, and that's totally separate than your employer sponsored 401k plan that you might be contributing to. So you are allowed to have multiple retirement plans. If you're able to determine that you have a skill where you can earn extra income, you can definitely also use that as a source plan for your retirement. Now, if you find this information useful, please feel free to comment below and let me know what you found most interesting or most relevant to your particular situation. Now we're up to the last thing, and that is number 10. And for number 10, as you plan for retirement, again, you want to think strategically about whether or not, one, do you want to relocate to somewhere that is cheaper? Because that's also another way to have your number or your goal for retirement be very different. Let's say you're living in New York where everything is so expensive versus if you're living in Florida where you don't pay taxes on certain things and the cost of living is a lot cheaper. Or if you move to an island where it's even cheaper. If you have a house, you want to think about whether or not you're going to sell that house and use that money as part of your retirement income as well. Those are some of the things that you want to take into consideration as you plan for your retirement and look at your overall picture. It is very important that if you have nothing in place right now, that you really start moving and not be paralyzed. You might have to work a little bit longer. Let's say you're 50 now and you decide that you're going to work 2 extra years, so you're going to retire at 70. So you'll have 20 years. And if you have a job now, it's just adjusting what you're making now and starting to put something away. Even beyond that is recognizing your whole financial picture, what your debt is, what kind of savings you have, and where you ultimately want to be. And if you take that strategy and look at all of those things, then you can start putting together a realistic picture of where you will be and what you need to do to get there. But my parting words to you would be get started now, but freaking out and being paralyzed is not going to help you in this situation. Really empowering yourself with knowledge is what's going to get you there. You got to start now because you already are behind and you'll only be further behind if you don't get started now. So if you found this video useful, please subscribe and share it with your friends and start implementing some of the strategies that you have picked up here. And I'll see you in the next video.